Hi everyone, and welcome to the second part of this video. In the first video we replaced the battery and we reset the console to factory defaults. Previously we used to get an error message to say panel battery warning. As you can see, that's no longer here. In this part of the video we will look at the initial settings. Since we reset the unit, we are not 100% sure that all the settings that were there before are still there. So without further delays, let's start with that. To go into initial settings, you press and hold this button and then press this one. Then here you can see our different menus we have. To change between them, you can select them by this way. First menu is ratio. That is the basic settings for mains, line voltage, power, kilowatts, all those things. Second technique, that is to set up these buttons here, which will be either direct or the table bucky, wall bucky, auto changer, fluoroscopy, whatever. Third setting is to specify the tube that's in use. Fourth one is for fluoroscopy, which we don't use, so I won't go into that. There's very few of these consoles used for fluoro. COM interface is for communications. Option is optional extra items like your feedback, control, language, if you call it language, when you're going to connect to a Fuji system. And lastly, signals. Signal will be a different video. This allows you to custom set different functions of the machine to activate relays in the machine. Example, if you would have a red light connected and you want it to activate when you press prep, then using the signal you can link that function with a relay on the machine on the input-output board to drive a signal. The in-out board is different between the machines. On some machines it is the normal terminal 2002 board. On some of the other machines it might be using the table interface board or the fluoro interface board, depending on the configuration. So signal we're not going to fiddle with at this stage. Ratio, let's start with that. To enter ratio, press this button. So now this is the maximum kV and the maximum current at that kV. There you can limit the machine if you need to other settings, either by pressing up down, or you can type it here and press enter. I like to press enter twice to make sure it saves it. So this you can custom set or limit the machine to your needs. The next one, as I said, is the maximum MA at that kV, which you can also change. Default is 334 MA. If we go to the next page, it will say minimum kV. So this then is the maximum MA, minimum kV combination. This you can also set to whatever you need it to be. Default is 80 and 500. But you can limit the machine, for instance, to say 400 MA or 320 MA, which will prolong the life of the tube. I will explain that a little bit later. Next is the minimum rating, 51 kilowatts. You can change your minimum rating if you need be. If you have a supply that cannot handle this much current, if you've got a small dB or a small transformer that powers the building, you can reduce this to limit the machine's kilowatt rating. If you have, for instance, an 80 amp supply, you can limit this to 32 kilowatts. Which will then allow you to use this on an 80 amp main supply on your DB. This is the line frequency. If we go to the next one, you will see frequency 50 Hz or 60 Hz. Only two options available. That you will set according to your line. The last page is watt second, which is not used on this unit. You'll see once you select the last page, this light here switches on. If I go back, it's off, there it's on. When you press this now, you get the option to cancel, or save, or no save, or initial, we should set it to the defaults again. So we can now go ahead and save these values. And that's done. Next, technique code and then tube. I will do tube first because the technique uses the tube settings. So let's enter tube. In my case, we have got a P18DE tube. It's already set to P18DE, but if you would have had another tube, you can just change it to whatever tube that you have, as long as it's a Shimatsu tube. If you do not have a Shimatsu tube, please let me know in the comments and I'll do a video on how to calculate all the factors to program a non-Shimatsu tube into this machine, so that you have proper curves and proper protection and proper heating and cooling times for a non-Shimatsu tube. As usual, we press the button and we can save the value, and that's done. Next we have tech. This allows us to preset these buttons. So here we can select general radiography or Bucky 1, auto changer, planiphotomography, Bucky 2, serial. Allows us to sort of define the name of each button. If we go to the next step, you will see it will indicate the tube. If you've got a 2-tube system, here you can select between tube 1 and tube 2 or tube 3, depending on which tube will be used together with that Bucky. In this case, we leave it at tube 1, and it says P18DE, which is what we've already set in the other menu. Fluoro will be this one here. We don't have fluoroscopy, so it's off. Photo timer code. If you have photo timer, you would set the photo code over here for the type of photo timer you have. If you don't know how to do it, you'll find it in the manual. It's not a big train smash. Otherwise, just contact me and I'll always help you. Photo detector is not used because we did not specify a photo timer. Photo field, also it will be 0 because we don't have photo timer specified. But here you'll be able to set your photo fields, which will be either maybe a 2-chamber for left and right, on your Bucky, or some Buckys have got 3, left, right and the center. Some chambers have got 4, or like Philips sometimes have got 5. So Shimatsu also have got those, so you could just here specify 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the amount of chambers there's available on your system. And lastly, you got tag system. Now this is an interesting one. Tag system usually is 1, 2, 3 for Bucky 1, Bucky 2, Bucky 3, whatever. If you look at your terminal board, you've got 1B1, 1B2, 2B1, 2B2. Those are pre-linked to the technique system 1, 2, 3, and so on. What makes this nice is if you've completed the whole installation and you find that when you select table, your chest stand grid moves. Now instead of having to step the whole thing apart and redo all your wiring, all you would do here is go to your table function, go to the last menu, which is this one, and change that to a 3. And then you would go to your chest stand, go to the last menu and select the 3 to a 2. Now in software you have matched this button with the relay for the chest stand and this button with the relay for the table. So now when you press chest stand, your chest stand will move, and you press table, your Bucky will move. So it makes it easy in software to actually change things and to connect each button with any relay also, or any signal series for the work you want to do. That makes this machine really flexible, as you can do magic with these buttons. If you want to, you connect your cappuccino machine to a relay, and when you press prep, it will start making cappuccinos at the end of the day. Choice is yours. Nice, customizable, beautiful machines these. And once you're at the end, we can hit that button and we can save our new techniques that we have programmed in here. And with these minimum of setups, you can actually use the machine. Let's just go on to your Options are interesting. Most of the stuff are not used. Measured is an interesting one. If you switch measured on, it will display the feedback after each exposure. So whenever you take an X-ray, it will display the actual kV and MAS that it measured. The problem with this is that you've got short exposures under 32 MAS, you will get funny values. Because under 32 milliseconds, you will get funny values. Because the CPU needs a certain amount of time to take a sample and display it. So this is only for real value when you expose for more than 32 milliseconds. The other problem also is that if you switch it on, the customers will keep on phoning you because they get funny values whenever they do short exposures and things upon the machine. So usually we leave this off. This is your Fuji CR interface. So if you've got a Fuji system connected and you have the DR interface board, then this panel can actually talk to a Fuji. When you select hand on a Fuji, this will set itself up for hand for you and you just press expose. For a machine that's already 22 years old, this is awesome. Thermal interface we don't use. YSF, that's for fluoroscopy. Iris we don't use. ZS is also fluoro. High level is for fluoroscopy. Photo backup, don't use that in this case. Barium compensation is also for fluoroscopy. IO field, spot anode dye, photo field, IBS, also for fluoroscopy. Most of these are optional stuff for other functions. IDR 700 is used in some Shimatsu systems, so we've got the Shimatsu TV chain. The last one looking at here is then our RMA feedback. This is always on. What the RMA feedback does, while you're exposing, the machine will measure your MA and then keep on adjusting itself so that your output is always 100% perfect. So that we leave on. If you switch it off, then you'll have the problem where your MA you get out will be as good as the calibration data you put into the machine. So it will not compensate for filament stretching or cables or voltage issues or power supply issues or anything that can cause a bad MA value. So usually this is on so that the machine will measure and adjust itself to make sure it's always giving perfect X-rays. And that's it. And we could save it. We haven't changed anything, we save it. And that are the main settings needed to get this machine to work. So from here you'll find out it's an awesome machine that you can do almost anything with. Earlier I made a comment about the MA and prolonging tube life. That's an interesting one. Whenever you select MAS mode, even if you select 1 MAS or 1.8, the machine will go for the maximum allowed possible MA at the shortest time to make that happen. So if your MA is set to maximum, say 640 MA, and you select MAS, the machine will always go to the maximum. So now I'm doing this, and you can set it to 400. Remember we limited it for 400 earlier. So by limiting it, you actually, when the customer uses MAS mode, you reduce the amount of power you push into the tube, which will then extend the life of your tube. If you take it too low, however, you will find problems with bigger patients, like me, where you need a 200 MAS to do a lateral spine, for instance, because that will result in a 2-second exposure. But otherwise, reducing it a bit will save your tube and make your tube last a lot longer than normal. The other thing that influences your tube life is the flash setting on the machine. In another video, I will explain to you how to set the flash and what influence that has on extending the life of your tube. If your flash is set too high, it will kill your filament after 8 or 10 months. So it's a very important thing to always check the flash voltage and also to make sure that you don't crank the MA up too high and then shorten your tube life, because it will push full power into the tube and then just kill it quickly. And that's a short version of this. So in all 15 minutes of explaining, you've set up this machine. If you have to set up the machine from scratch, you should be able to do it within 7 minutes. As you see, it's very little things you have to adjust. So I've started a series on how to adjust a collimator in 7 minutes. Because adjusting collimator, the X-ray to light field, for some engineers takes an extremely long time, although there's a short way to do it. Like with this machine, there's easy ways to do it, like you've seen here. We can do this in literally 7 minutes if you don't have to talk and explain things in between. So with that in mind, may you have lots of fun programming your machine and getting it to talk to a cappuccino machine for you. Have fun and take care, and by all means, stay safe, wear your lead protective gear, and watch out for radiation burns. Take care guys, have a great day, bye bye.